Okay, so in today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to solve equations that involve roots. Now, in order to do that, you're going to want to make sure you get these 3 steps written down that are in this box. Because if you follow those same 3 steps, it's going to make these work out a lot easier. Because when you get finished, you'll see that it's a long process. It's not quite as easy as just 3 little steps. But as you're working through it, it makes that process a lot easier if you go through and apply these 3 steps. So first off, we want to get the root by itself. So I want to clear out everything from the left side of the equal sign to get that 6th root of x all by itself. So my first step is that's a positive 5. I want to get rid of that by subtracting 5 from both sides. Now when I do that, I get the 6th root of x equals 3. So I've got the root by itself. There's nothing else over there with the 6th root, so I can move on to the next step. The next step says to remove the root by using a power. So in other words, the power undoes the root. So the 6th power would undo the 6th root. So the 6th root is completely gone. So that includes the square root symbol. Sometimes people think that it's just the 6 that is gone, but we still have the square root. That's not the case. The root is completely gone because that's the 6th root. So taking the 6th power would make that disappear. So I have x equals, and then when you take 3 to the 6th power, you're going to get 729. And that's your answer, because the last step is to solve for x, and there's nothing we have to do to solve for x. So that's your final answer, 729. Let's look at one that's going to be more challenging. We're going to still apply those same 3 steps. Our first step is always going to be to get the root by itself. So I need to get rid of the 3 and the 6 here. Now there is a proper order to do this. If I had the equation 3a plus 6 equals 18, that would be a simple 2-step equation to solve for a. We would subtract 6 and then divide by 3. The same thing is true here. But instead of a, I have this 4th root of 2x plus 8, and I'm trying to get that by itself. So I'm going to start by subtracting 6 from both sides. I still have 3 times the 4th root of 2x plus 8. But then I still have to get the 4th root by itself. So my next step is to divide both sides by 3. So now I have the 4th root of 2x plus 8 equals, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now I have the root by itself, so my next step is to take the power of each side. So in other words, I have the 4th root, so I'm going to raise each side to the 4th power to get rid of that root. So again, the root is completely gone, so I'm left with 2x plus 8 equals, and 4 to the 4th power is going to end up being 256. So now we're going to the last step, the 3rd step, and that's the one that we didn't get a chance to do in the previous example because at this point it worked out nicely. But the 3rd step here is going to be to solve for x. So I have a simple 2-step equation here to solve for x. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to subtract 8, giving me 2x equals 248. Divide both sides by 2. That will give me x equals 124. And that's your final answer. So again, like I mentioned earlier, when you look back at this, there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of parts involved here. But if you follow those 3 steps that we talked about, those 3 general steps, get the root by itself, get rid of the root by applying the power, and then solve for x, it makes it a lot easier. So let's try one more together here. So with this one here, we have 8 minus 3 times the 4th root of 4x minus 8 equals 2. So again, our first step is to get the root by itself. Now for this one here, some people get confused and they think, oh, 8 minus 3 is 5. No, you can't do that, because if I had 8 minus 3a equals 2, you would know better than to take 8 minus 3. You would know, hopefully, that you'd have to subtract 8 from both sides and then divide by negative 3. We're going to do the same thing here. So this 8 is positive, so to get rid of it, I subtract 8 from both sides. That gives me negative 3 times the 4th root of 4x minus 8. and 2 minus 8 is negative 6. So now I divide by negative 3. Now again, we don't add 3 to both sides. Some people have gotten confused by that. This is negative 3 times the fourth root. So to get rid of it, we have to do the opposite. So we divide by negative 3. So when you do that, I'm left with the fourth root of 4x minus 8 equals negative 6 divided by negative 3. Now that's a positive 2. And now to get rid of the root, we would take each side to the fourth power. So I'm left with 4x minus 8 equals, and 2 to the fourth power would be 16, not 8. Don't take 2 times 4. It's 2 times itself 4 times. And from here, then, we would go ahead and solve this. So you should be able to see now that this is a simple two-step equation. We're just going to add 8 and divide by 4. So I add 8 to both sides. This would give me 24. Divide both sides by 4, and we get 6 as your answer. Okay, I want you guys to try this last one on your own. So give it a shot, and so press pause on the video now and press play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, so let's see how you did here. So we would first start by getting the root by itself by subtracting 2 from both sides. I still have the 5 times the fifth root of 32x equals, and 12 minus 2 is 10. Divide both sides by 5. And I get the fifth root of 32x equals, 10 divided by 5 is 2. But now I have to take and raise each side to the fifth power to get rid of the root. So I'm left with 32x equals 2 to the fifth power is 32. Divide both sides by 32 to get the x by itself. You get x equals 1. So that's how we solve equations when roots are involved. So you can see that if we follow these same 3 steps that we talked about at the beginning, it'll alleviate some of the anxiety that might come with doing kind of a long problem like this. So with that, good luck on your assignment.